Before we begin this episode of the How Long to Beat podcast, a public service announcement. In April of 2022, 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim will be releasing for the Nintendo Switch. I repeat, in April 2022, 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim will be releasing for the Nintendo Switch. Thank you for your attention. Now on with the episode. Hello, and welcome once again to the How Long to Beat podcast. I'm Rick, joined by two hosts who are just about containing their laughter. Alex on my left, Paula on my right. And yeah, just in case you missed that lovely, slightly more subdued announcement, 13 Sentinels is coming to the Switch. There is no excuse if you own a Switch and haven't played this game yet. It's happening. And I'm very happy that more people are going to get a chance to play this glorious, glorious game this week. Because it's not April yet and we have some months yet to go before that's really, truly relevant. We are going to hear from Abatage to tell us about the penultimate month of the Fantasy Critic League.
How you can trim that little beat Fantasy Critic League.
We're claiming that shit. That's ours now. After that, we'll go on to, as always, talk about what we've beaten, retired, and played. This week, our topic is Boxart, the most audio-friendly of topics. And then hopefully we'll manage to squeeze a community question in before we go on to finish with how long to beat the game. That was truly awful. Recording or no recording, that was truly awful. I think Alex was looking away and still managed to get in before Paula did.
Yeah, I got it. My dog was watching, so I was like, huh.
Yeah, like my brain went to have a walk for like 2 seconds, and then it was like, all right, I need to do the thing.
Yeah. Well, why don't we give a listen now to Abatage?
Yes.
What's up, everybody? I'm Abatage, and welcome to your How Long to Beat Fantasy Critic League roundup for November 2021. Now, this will be the last roundup for the year, as the next time we meet, I'll be announcing the winner of our 2021 league. But for now, let's get into it. Once again, Funky Face Studios had no new releases, but stayed on top, while Frozen Frog gained an additional 5 points thanks to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, further securing their place in second. Ubisoft and General Goods also retained their place and had no new releases in November. Much the same for Mango, who had no new releases but gained 4 points from counterpicking Battlefield 2042. Pokken Paw gained a position thanks to a strong release from Shin Megami Tensei 5, which brought them another 16 points. And Noise Labs dropped a spot and had no new releases during the month. While Beatmasters kept rising up the ranks and took another spot with a very strong 24 points from Forza Horizon 5, despite losing 4 points from Battlefield 2042. With more points heading their way in December, this is certainly one to watch in the endgame. Horny Mistress managed to sneak ahead a little thanks to Solar Ash earning 9 points. Although it was technically released in December 2nd, the points were there at the end of the month. Meanwhile, Ashmasters got burned by Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy The Definitive Edition, which tanked out and lost 13 points to put them in the bottom of the pack, where somehow Cockroach Content Corp gained a position after earning a mere 2 points from Call of Duty Vanguard, leaving CD Projekt Rick to continue their descent with the release of Bright Memory Infinite, which failed to impress and took 6 points away. And in what has become a comforting solidification of last place, CD Product Refund saw no new releases during November and once again defended the bottom valiantly. Finally, the only actions taken during November were from Horny Mistress, who acquired Timecia for $30 and Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1 for $25, which completed their roster and left them with $1 in their budget. And that's how the How Long to Beat Fantasy Critic League shaped up for November 2021. And as I mentioned at the top, this will be the final roundup for 2021, as the year's winner will be finalised and announced at the start of 2022. And speaking of 2022, signups for next year will be open within the week, with the 2022 draft taking place in the first week of January. If you check out the forum and the Discord, I've already posted a basic overview video of what the league is about, and I'll be posting another one with more in-depth details soon. So if you want to know more about drafting and auto-drafting and counter-picking and pickups and bids and drops, keep an eye out for that one on the forum, and hopefully it will help out any new players who want to join up for the next year. So while the top spot seems to be a foregone conclusion, there's still the potential for a lot of movement in the middle positions. I, for one, am looking forward to finding out how this year's league pans out during our final month. I'll see you on the other side.
All right, look at that. Another month another me. This year has been kind of weird, but I'm not complaining. Who knows? Could be some change ups in the end of the month. But I do think it's sort of funny that the two CD Projekt like pun games are the ones who are in the very bottom.
Yeah, it's art very cruelly imitating life.
Yeah, you guys kind of cursed yourselves.
It's
Yep.
it's not ideal. But I mean, I've always said this. This year was always a test run for the true 2022 run, which is what's coming, which is when I'm really going to go for it and round out the How Long to Beat host trio trilogy, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone's going to be on their like friggin' guard for us because we've been doing so well. So we'll see what happens. But
speaking of guarding, people who are guardians of things. I totally thought you meant that segue, Alex. Did you not?
No, but that's excellent. I had no thoughts.
I heard you too.
I got back pain this week, so I got my brain's like basically on like a one-way track of just like sore back and kind of focusing.
In any event, this week, Alex and I both beat Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. The surprise hit of 2021?
Yes, I would say so. I would say definitely the surprise hit because I don't think no one was raving about this. Some people thought like, oh, maybe it'll look good, but like majority opinion was like, I don't know about this game because we've all been burned by Marvel's Avengers, which I think was a reasonable opinion to have of this game going in. Like I don't think anyone was like off base for being skeptical of this.
No, sure, and additionally having beaten the game and sort of looked back at the promo, the pre-release sort of stuff they did for it. That E3 demo was not a great demo of what that game is. It was like the weakest part of the game as a whole, I think, both in terms of banter and story and also in terms of actual gameplay. I think really they should have picked something sort of 2/3, 3/4 of the way in where you have a few more character abilities and you could showcase what that game truly becomes a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think they've done it dirty a little bit.
A little, yeah, because I agree with you. Like, that's sort of when they're all, like, the team's not even really a team yet, right? And so it's just kind of like... Because, like, yeah, really the game is them becoming a team. And so the moments before that happens, it's significantly, I think, more enjoyable when they mesh as a team. But it's very fun going through that journey with them, right? Yeah, I don't know. I really liked it. I do think it suffered a tiny bit towards the end of like what I think a lot of games of this ilk suffer with, which is like kind of like gauntlet, just like a gauntlet of enemies. Like it was like I felt like near the end, it sort of was just kind of like, all right, now it's like room after room after room. But like the combat's really fun and enjoyable. So like I think it bothered me less than it does in some games. But it did a little bit feel just kind of like, okay, look, we're coming towards the conclusion here. So like, here we go. Let's go through our kind of gauntlet rush. But I think that's only because the earlier moments were so varied and so interesting that like when it was like a little more traditional, I was like, oh, I kind of miss all the crazy stuff you guys are doing. So it's kind of like because they did so well that I noticed that. You know what I mean? Like it's not...
I do, although even at the end, they, without spoiling anything, they managed to mix it up and subvert it in a few ways that I thought were quite clever.
Yeah.
The bit right at the end, I really, really love as well. So a little bit of sort of insider baseball. I finished this game literally minutes before we started recording, and I messaged the guys to say I'm finished. Screenshot of the credits, like, oh no, hold on, because there's a bit after the credits where the game carries on. And I think it's really, really clever in the way that it does that, and I think that's emblematic of the approach they've taken to the game as a whole. There's lots of cleverness. There's lots of, I think, understanding of what makes the medium work. Right from the off, where they give you all these accessibility options. They let you turn off QTEs. They let you tweak various different things to let you get to the fun. And I think that speaks to like real confidence from the developers in what they're doing and what they were gunning towards. And I think I wouldn't call it a 10 out of 10 game. It's like a 9.5 for me if such a score existed, but it's truly brilliant. It's a really fun time, and I think everything it does amazingly. Not massively unique. I mean, the combat does some clever stuff, not in the story particularly unique, overarching, because it's a lot of what it does is what the films already did, albeit it does it
Yes.
in a much more expansive
And
way and
more
with
comic
slight
booky.
differences.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
more tied to the comic book history, because I know Guardians, like the movie, veered from the comics a fair bit. But though, to be fair, like I don't even think this particular shape up of the Guardians, like it was really new when James Gunn like made the first Guardians, and I'm not even sure there had been many comics with that particular pairings, because I know that Guardians of the Galaxy themselves, I think there was a very different grouping before, and then the movies came out, and now this is the grouping. You know what I mean? Like it was like, here you go.
And the movies had to tweak bits anyway, because Drax is known as the Destroyer, and the comic books follow this. They're very much separate from the MCU. He's known as the Destroyer because of his conflicts with Thanos, who is still canonically Gamora's sort of adoptive father. But I do like that they sort of take that setup, but play with it a little bit in their own way. So you still have Star-Lord's origin, but they play with it in different ways. So you have him as a Chitauri prisoner for a while. I don't think that was the case in the films. There's various things where it draws from different aspects of the comic and goes in its own way a little bit. And I think, again, that speaks to a developer who's really sort of assured in the way that they were taking it.
Yeah. And like, oh, what was I going to say? Oh no, it's lost. It's totally lost to me now. It's totally lost to me. Dang
That's
it.
cool. Soundtrack.
Oh, what I was going to say,
go on.
it's like an absurdly confident first like game for what is presumably going to be a series, you know what I mean? Like, and I know this obviously, behind a team who is very adept and like, you know, very skilled, but it's just like, it's so well polished and so well done. And I think, you know, we talked about this, like, and I talked about this even last week. It's properly emotional too at times. Like there are moments like, did you talk to like Drax when you were on Nowhere?
Yes.
Yeah, that's like such a nice nuanced moment that I was like, damn, that is very well done. And like even like Drax himself is like I was like, I feel genuinely affected by this character right now. And like where, you know, I don't know, it's just like that to me is incredible, because again, in the films he's just very much, you know, a joke, right? And he does have layers obviously, but I think it's just delved into much more within the comic and within the game here. And to be fair, they have more time to do that, of course. And I still think Drax of the movies is incredible, but it's just like really interesting to see this kind of side, and it makes me kind of hope, because I think even Dave Bautista talked about how he's like a little disappointed that he wasn't able to kind of delve a little more into Drax. And I'm like, I kind of hope they give him that chance, because it clearly can work very well.
That's always the movie thing, though. You have to cut something, and it's easy to cut nuance from what can be a haha so literal funny character. And I think when he's done well, Drax is the best of those characters, because, like you say, he's got so many layers. That humor comes so easy because it's a very, very sort of specific fit for that. But there is also a real depth to that character, and it's another thing that I love with the game. There's like moments where you're in the Milano, and if you've picked things up in the levels in between, you can then go and have one-on-one conversations with the individual characters, and they really go some places. It's the same with Rocket. It's the same with Gamora. To the extent that it's possible, it's the same with Groot.
I love.
And again, that's another one that they do really, really well. I think with that comedy, it's so easy to get it wrong. It's so easy to lean too hard into it or sort of do it unthinkingly. But I think they nail the writing, and it's an interesting contrast, because we can say, oh, it's so much easier because they've got more time. They've got so many more opportunities to fuck it up.
That's true.
And they really manage not to. Two things. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah. I was gonna say, there's even moments like with Groot that I thought was great. Like there's one moment where like Rocket's confused, because like you get the idea, like they play more with the fact that Rocket is translating what Groot's saying, because like sometimes in the movies it sounds like he like always knows, but they do play with it a bit in there too. But I remember at one point like he's like, what do you mean plant them, right? Like he was like, what are you talking about? And like realizing that Groot's saying like, oh, Groot's asking like, where will we bury these people?
Buried him,
right?
Yeah.
But like for Groot, it's just a plan. And I was like, that is neat. Like they do this stuff where they like play on his like culture and like on. Anyway, I was just like, that's really clever, and like I dig that.
No pun intended.
There you go.
One final thing, because I was actually going to bring that up myself. The soundtrack. Even if you don't play the game, and I think... Oh, no, there are two things, actually. So soundtrack. Even if you don't play the game, and I think our consensus is that you absolutely should play the game. The soundtrack is amazing, both in terms of the licensed music, and they wrote a whole album under like the moniker of Star-Lord. And that album is like pure 80s classic rock, and it's incredible. I've genuinely just listened to it on the semi-regular now. It's really, really good. Second thing, you played on Series X, I want to say?
Yes, I did.
I played on PS4, and it's not the best way to play it. It's a very acceptable way to play it. The game, 95% of the time, runs great. I did have a couple of crashes. Particularly towards the end, I had some very, very sketchy frame rates. And this is on my blessed PS4. There's every chance that you listening at home might have a worse experience on your console. If you don't have the next gen, you don't have a PC, you can absolutely play it that way. All of the glowing praise that I've given to this game is based on that version of the game. If you have another option, I would recommend playing it that way.
Yeah, like even because I used the ray tracing mode, and fucking incredibly gorgeous, like just beautiful. But it would chug in combat sometimes, like it really would. And I actually noticed that occasionally it had issues with quick resume, I think, because quick resume would go on fine, but I noticed that, and I don't know why, but it seems like if the game had been playing for a while, it would start to chug a little bit. And so sometimes I would just close the game and like reboot it basically. And then it was just like, we're back up to speed.
I think that's why I had the crashes. I think it might be a memory leak thing.
I think it is, because it seemed to me that the longer it was on, the more that the game was just like, you know, and I'm like, uh-oh. But then if I swap it to the performance mode, honestly, it was actually like, because I know 60 FPS is amazing, but sometimes it's like a little disconcerting, because like they're almost too fluid, which might sound like a weird complaint, but I was like, oh, like everything's just like moving, like especially when you're used to the ray trace, and 30 FPS looks great, like it does, but then suddenly it's up to 60 and everyone just looks like they're just like, it's like, you know, when we first started doing the 45 frames per second films and stuff, and like they did the
48,
Hobbit.
you mean?
48 was
people were like, whoa, that doesn't look real. Yeah, I totally
yeah,
know.
it looks a little too much. That's what was happening in this one. It's not always the case with games. Like sometimes 60 FPS you don't even notice, it just looks great. And I find maybe it's more often when I play first person perspective games and they bump it up, I don't notice it as much. But I think because I was controlling Quill, it just felt weird, and because I was switching in between, it's like if you start on one, you won't even notice, right? But when you're playing on one and then you switch to the other, you're like, oh, okay. So I had a habit of just clicking the switch over to performance mode, which the thing is though, like I would recommend that for in battles, but like the ray trace is so incredible for exploration and cutscenes and stuff that like I almost think it's worth losing the frames just to get that beautiful experience, because it's such a gorgeously created world, and they like really, I love sci-fi too, and like the environments they created in this game are just incredible. Like it's so
they look amazing on PS4. I bet they pop.
Oh my god, the colors, like everything. The llama is the best thing ever.
What do they call the llama? The llama's got a name.
I don't remember. I just know
Kami.
Space Llama. Kami. Oh yeah, that's it. Kami the Space Llama.
And Cosmo the best boy.
Yes, Cosmo truly is the best boy. I like that it did kind of the Telltale stuff too, where it was like, do you remember? Because like I think there are a fair number of things that can change up, though I don't think it drastically changes anything. You might just have like a harder combat experience or something else, or you miss like a collectible or something. But it was kind of nice. I kind of wish they did a little more with that, to be honest. But I also
it has like a low-key Telltale-esque thing where it's like, oh, Gamora noticed that you trusted her and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It feels like a really nitpicky complaint. They could have definitely done more with that, but I feel like it doesn't matter that they didn't.
Well, exactly. I was like, oh, that was nice. Maybe that's something they can expand on in the next one, which I think that would be a thing that I would imagine they would probably like push a little further if they make a sequel, you know? It seems like there's a couple things in this game that I was like, that was really cool. I just would like more because it was great. But then maybe they hit on the perfect part, right? I don't know.
It's a weird one because they could totally finish it where it is, but I would love to see more. And I'd like to think that the sales, once people were like, oh no, this isn't a shit one, like, would justify that as well.
This must have cleaned up in Black Friday. It has to have. Like, you know what I mean? Because like I was like, I saw that and I went, fuck yeah, or I'm going right in on this, you know? But I hope so. Anyway, it was front and center on most of the sales, at least here in Canada. All right, sorry, we went way long on this one.
Consensus is it's great.
Yeah. Why don't I jump quickly through the other two that I played? I beat the great Ace Attorney Chronicles. I've been playing this since August. I've done it.
Oh my god.
To be fair, I've been very on and off with it because I was doing it pretty slowly. Yeah. That second game, yeah, it's in top 3 Ace Attorney for me. Like, I think I'm always like, for me, like the second game, I think is it Trials and Tribulation or Justice for All? Whatever. The second
Justice for All is the second one.
Is the second one? Okay. Maybe it's Trials and Tribulations that's my favorite. I don't know. The first 3 Ace Attorney games are honestly to me like all similar level. But this one easily is of the same quality, and I would say probably better because they've just refined so many things. And man, this second part goes fucking hard. Like every single thing they set up, they successfully pay off in just incredible ways. And like I also have to say, Ace Attorney isn't a whodunit, it's a howdunit, right? Like it's not really, because like it's not usually that hard to figure out who did. And in fact, a lot of them they show you who did it, right? Like, and they do that less in this. And this one, they're very rarely. I don't think they almost ever like foreshadow exactly who did it, but you can kind of guess. Like as I was playing, like when the final resolution, I was like, I know, but the reveal of how things happen is totally unpredictable. Like that's the thing where you like. And not because it's like illogical, it's just like you don't know. Like it could be anyone. And it had me questioning who was involved so often throughout. And yeah, it's just brilliant. Oh my God. So there are these Sherlock Holmes deductions, right? And I won't spoil anything, but I just have to say that they pay off those deductions in the best fucking way possible. I was grinning from like cheek to cheek throughout the entirety of this one particular one that they do that is like the capstone to all the deductions, and it is just, oh my God, it makes you realize like they were setting shit up in the first game, in the first freaking moments that you didn't even realize they were setting up or hinting at later on. And like things just like, it's one of those, it is like the Pepe Silly fucking It's Always Sunny thing, but I was like, oh my God, that's that, and it connects to that, and like it's that moment, and it's just it's so good. Like the characters are so intelligently written. Everyone is used well. The thing I love about Ace Attorney games is they bring people back, right? It's not about like, let's introduce millions of new characters. It's like, okay, I introduced a character, so how would they fit into this world and how could they return? And man, it is so good. Like if you have never played Ace Attorney, I think this is the perfect place to start because it's modernized, it's gorgeous looking. The music is the best music I've heard in game in so long. Like it is iconically good. And like, oh God, every single moment, it's incredible. And I know, Rick, you don't like love these. And like, yeah, look, could courtrooms have happened? Like, no, it's not even pretending to be realistic. Like, it's just not. And that's not the point of it. Like, think of Ghost Trick, right? Detective stories don't happen like that. Like, it's that kind of world.
For me, it's the internal logic that feels fucked.
Oh no, the internal logic in this
clearly that's a me thing because. Yeah. You guys and lots of people love those games. That's fine. I think that's just a door that's closed to me, and that's also fine.
But I will say, I think the eternal logic is stronger. You might find it stronger in this one because it's set around the turn of the century. So it's like, you know, like late 18, early 1900s kind of thing. So they actually pare back a lot of stuff, and technology is actually less of a factor within this, though it does play in some like fun, interesting ways. It's more about.
To be honest, it was the procedural more than the technological stuff that balked it for me. Where they're like, the trial has to be done in 3 days. It's like, go fuck yourself. Like,
but see,
I just found that really galling personally.
Yeah, but see, actually, that's what I find interesting in this because the whole idea is that like the justice system here is kind of fucked. And so anyway, it's really neat. And they go to Britain, and it's very, very interesting because it's all set as like a study tour in Britain. Anyway, these games are incredible. I highly, highly recommend them. For me,
One of the other reasons.
yeah, go ahead.
One of the other reasons this is a perfect place to start for any newcomers to the series is because they pretty much like start from a clean slate. You don't have to know anything about the prior Ace Attorneys because it is said before any of the other Ace Attorneys.
Yes.
Well, if you wanted to enjoy, I don't know, like I'm gonna say Ace Attorney 3, you probably better play like the first two first.
Yeah.
Mainly because of how they are connected and because characters return.
Yeah. There's no connections besides fun Easter eggy type things to the original trilogy. There are some shout outs to Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, not like in terms of Easter eggs. There's a particular one that I thought was cute. And it's not like very obvious, but it's just like if you played the game, you're like, nice, you know. So I don't know. You can really tell that they were deeply inspired while making that game, and that this is very much seems to have like unlocked something in Shu Takumi's head, who's just like, I've got an idea, and like went with this, you know. So yeah, I would
That
give
reminds me of a puzzle.
Yeah, for me, the first one was like a 9 out of 10, and this one is easily a 10 out of 10. Like the game is just. It's just perfect. Like I have nothing. I'm like I don't know what the fuck you could change with this game. Like honestly, I was just like, yeah, that's it. That's a perfect game for me. You know, as a package, it's more like 9 because again, the first one is it drags a tiny little bit, but it's still well written and great. But the second one is just like chef's kiss. Anyway, I also beat new Pokemon Snap.
That was quick.
Taking pictures of Pokemon. Yeah. It's not a very long game. I don't know. It was fine. It's fucking Pokemon Snap, man. Like I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's like one of those things where I'm just like, I don't know what anyone expects from this game. Like it's a solid 8 out of 10. The Pokemon are pretty. You're on a track. You snappy snap photos. I think I unlocked all the bonus stuff too. I liked it. It's good for while watching TV or something. You can tell if you want to really get everything because like there's like research level for each of the levels and you have to increase them to about basically you have to get to level 2 to unlock other stuff, but then level 2 to level 3, which I think because every time you get a new research level new things happen, but from level 2 to level 3 that can go fuck itself. It is like so freaking grindy because like you have to take so many photos and it takes so long, and I was like, I'm never gonna level them up to level 3. So if you just go through and play the story, fun. But if you're like obsessive, and also the scoring system makes zero sense whatsoever. The stars are meaningless. Like I have taken shots where a Pokemon is like ass first in the ground. You can't even see the Pokemon, or like head first, and like their ass up in the air or some shit. They're like covered by a fucking plant, and it's like 3 stars. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
You got the twerking bonus. Did you not know
right?
about the twerking
Yeah, I was
bonus?
like, no, that was the digging bonus. You're good. Or like sometimes I just got the back of a Pokemon who's just standing there, and they're like, that's 2 stars. And I was like, there's not even another Pokemon in the frame. What is going on? Like I could never figure out. And I'm sure there's like logical explanations. But here's the deal. 1, I don't give a shit. 2, they don't explain it. 3, I don't give a shit. So like that was like, I'm done. If it doesn't make sense, I'm done. They like explain it once, but then it never actually makes sense. And here's another gripe I have. They give you these fucking challenges to do. But half the time, I would complete the challenge the first time I did it. I'd get the shot that they're asking for, but then you gotta go and fucking do it again? Bullshit.
I hate that.
I should have just been allowed to take the photo I took the first time and say I did that challenge. So I stopped doing the challenges, and they're organized poorly. Like it's just this giant request list, and I was like, why don't you just put the requests onto each level? Let me check them as I'm playing the fucking level so that I can get them done. Instead, it's like, no, man, watch before and go do your 3-minute fucking Pokemon course again. And you're like, no, I don't want to do that 300 times. Like, I get they're trying to milk out, like, give you more to do in a game, but like, bruh, Come on.
And what the audience can't see but can maybe slightly hear is Paula's pain having, I think, done all of this stuff.
Yeah, Paula's because Paula went for like hardcore with the Photodex.
I didn't do like all the challenges, but at the very least, I completed the Photodex.
Oh my god, that's incredible! You completed the Photodex. Jesus, how many are in the Photodex? Because I don't think I even got. Well, I don't know. I probably got close, but
200 and something, maybe. I don't know.
I'll have to check.
I just know that.
Yeah.
I just know that, especially like I got all the shots for the legendaries, and I remember Suicune being a pain in the ass because to get like the actual decent shots, you have to like first arrive to a secret part of the level because there are a lot of like secret paths that are actually like very, very cool. And then you have to I think it was like to throw Illumina ball to a Jinx that is like floating onto a bigger Pokemon like in the water and it's trying like to stop it. And you have to throw an Illumina orb, and then a Suicune will come like running in the water, which by the way is cool as shit.
That is cool, but I'll tell you, this should tell you how far I got, and I don't even fucking know Suicune's in the game, so clearly I didn't do that. Did you get everything to level 3? Like, how many research levels are there? Oh my god, girl, then you played for a long time.
Yep. I played over 30 hours of this game, I think.
Oh shit, I did 10 and I was like, I'm good. I was like, I've seen all the Pokemon I need to see.
Yeah, I really like the original Pokemon stuff, and I actually did all the extra stuff on there too. So I had a lot of fun doing a lot of the extra stuff. There were some that were rude, and I was like, no thanks, no thanks. Like for example, there was on the secret path there was a Pokemon encased in the ice, and you have to trigger an event with 2 Jinx to make them use Psychic or something and make it break out of it. And I don't know why, but I got the 2 Jinx using the attack, but it didn't work. So I was like, yep, nope, not doing this. Bye.
Yeah. And someone who's this is my Metroid Dread rant last week. I'm like, this game, 8 out of 10. But the reality is as someone who doesn't even really care about this stuff and only kind of cares about Pokemon, I actually had fun, right? So it's a good game and it is quite pretty. Now I only played it on the handheld, so who knows what it looks like blown up, but it is quite pretty.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah. I'll have to try it out.
Yeah.
I might have the Metroid Dread experience with my freaking the 4K, and suddenly you're like, the textures, but I think they did a pretty good job with this. So I don't know. Anyway, it's Pokemon Snap. If you like taking photos, you're gonna like new Pokemon Snap. If you don't like Pokemon, why would you ever play this game?
Yeah.
Anyway, why don't someone else
it's
take
cute,
it away?
but you like it if you like Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, Paula, you should go next because me and Alex spent about 15 minutes talking about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay. So I finished a couple of shorter games this week because, oh my god, the last assignments on one of those classes was hell. Anyways, Luna's Fishing Garden. A very, very, very adorable game where you play as this human girl that kind of washes up on this island where there's I think it's a fox. It's called Luna, and she's mad because the weather happened and all the island there's a lot of debris and stuff floating in the water on her island. So she's like, I need to clean up all of this, and she pretty much wants you to clean the whole place and do a lot of little missions. And then she will return you home. And it is a very charming game. The pixel art of the game is fantastic. The fishing game is a lot of fun, and it better be fun because you'll spend most of a huge part of the game either fishing or cultivating and harvesting plants and stuff like that. Though it is about 2 hours or 3 hours long if you want to do everything in the game. It never overstayed its welcome, and I really recommend it if you want like a more relaxing experience overall. And then Islanders. I initially thought this would be like more of a city builder game, so it kind of like caught my eye that it was like only like 7 hours on How Long to Beat. In reality, it's more of a puzzle game because you're given, you're like put into an island and you're given like at the start of the thing like 2 options. Let's say you have like the Plaza Pack and the, I don't know, like the cabin pack or something like that, and you have to like choose one of those. And the buildings, each time you place a building, it will give you a score. If you place your buildings like certain buildings next to another, it could give you like more points or less points depending on what is like the overall surroundings of the building. So it turns into a little puzzle game where if you run out of buildings and you haven't like leveled up to get like a new set of buildings, it's game over. Well, you could like be eternally doing like placing buildings if you're like very good at the game. There's a bunch of different islands, which I saw them all. I actually got all the achievements on this because it is that addictive. And you have to really strategically think like which buildings you are choosing to place. Because, for example, on some islands you will have like less space to build, or you have like more sand, so you can like focus like on like these structures that kind of like make bricks that and those structures will get like more points depending on the, I guess, the natural resources you have like on hand. And I'm just gonna say there's 2 achievements that were like very difficult to get. One where you have to lose a total of 100 points on a level. I think it was 100, yeah. And I don't remember the name of the thing, but you have to really, really, really either get very lucky and have like one of those big buildings that really don't want certain kind of buildings around, or just try to misplace things, but still like being careful, because if you don't get like enough points, then you can't keep building shit. And finally, like the most difficult yet satisfying achievement to get is the one that with a single building you earn 75 points, I think. And that's the last achievement I got because it really takes a lot of understanding and a bit of luck and strategizing, because you have to be like, okay, if I want to build this building, then I have to have like this amount of space, and probably I would like to have like these kind of buildings like around it to get like max points for it. So yeah, that was Islanders. It is actually a very complex kind of city builderage, but more of a puzzle game, and I have a lot of fun. So Rick, take it away.
Yeah, I've got a few big ones this week, to be fair. Mostly co-op stuff, so we'll start with co-op stuff. I, with an IRL friend over the course of the past like year and a bit, have been slogging through Earth Defense Force 4.1, The Shadow of New Despair, for PS4. Anyone who's listening who's ever played an EDF game before, it's another one of those. For anyone who hasn't, this started as one of the simple series in Japan. It is basically a very, very bare bones third-person action game where you fight through levels of like wave-based bug hunting. It's not focused on the graphics. It's very much focused on the sheer quantity of bugs that you're facing and the amount of firepower and sort of city destruction you can do. Lots of fun co-op. You really are playing sort of the same level sort of 50 times or so. The variety is one of the areas that this sort of series lacks big style. So there are 89 levels total in the release. To be honest, we were kind of done with the game about level 60, but by that point we were sort of committed. We wanted to finish it off. And when I saw my friend last week, we spent about 5 hours just bum rushing the last sort of portion of the game. They are great for what they are. There's not really a lot to say because there's not really a lot to the game. There's aim, there's shoot, there's jump, there's reload, and there's switch weapon. That's literally it. Over time, they have fleshed those games out. So you have like different character classes that do slightly different things. They mix up the formula quite a lot. But ultimately, there's only so much you can do to change shoot crawly thing in various inversions. And that's not to minimize the game. The minute that the game is excellent, and we had an excellent time doing it. I would say if you're someone who's looking to get new into the series, either pick the newest one or there's a great entry on Vita, believe it or not. It's a remake of the second Earth Defense Force. It's called EDF2 Invaders from Planet Space. And it is probably the most accessible of the games in the series because it's on handheld, because it's quite straightforward, because it's a base game that they've done a lot of polishing to and given like a fresh coat of paint. I think it's a really, really excellent way to sort of dip your toe in if you'd like to give the games a try and have a Vita. If not, 4.1 is great. It's really, really cheap. EDF5 is pretty cheap as well, though. So if you're going to jump in, I'd say that's probably a better starting point. We've already jokingly said that we might try and start that one next year, but we'll see. The other one that we've beaten in co-op, this time with friends of the podcast, Cock, aka Matt, and Abatage, our fantasy critic coach, we beat a game called Risk of Rain 2. This is the sequel to the original Risk of Rain, both made by Hoppo Games. The first one was 2D. With Risk of Rain 2, they've brought it into the 3D space. And considering that the core team's only 5 strong, they've done a phenomenal job translating everything from that 2D perspective to 3D, making that concept work in the same way, fleshing out the number of items and weapons and worlds, making the roguelite formula sort of really sing. I think they do probably the best I've ever played with in terms of making that roguelike stuff feel unique every single run, give you that kind of breadth of experience while also giving you sort of familiar things that you can sort of build yourself around. Certainly does it better than Hades, in my view, for example, to give sort of listeners quite a general sort of touch point for it. And the core gameplay loop is just excellent. I mean, even in single player, it's really, really good. But as a trio, it's been even more fun, sort of strategizing. Well, how much do we want to loot? When do we want to activate the teleport? How do we want to make this work? So the loop itself, basically, you are stranded in this sort of star system and you're trying to find your way home. That entails, in various sort of small biomes, finding and activating a teleporter, killing the boss monster that comes out of it, and then using the teleporters to go to the next world and essentially hopping 5 or 6 worlds until you find the one where your spaceship is so you can get home. The longer your run lasts, the more aggressive and dangerous and powerful the enemies become. And so you have a constant ticking counter in the top right of your screen that goes from easy to medium to hard to I see you to ha 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 ha. And there's this massive risk reward thing. Your money resets every biome. So you have this thing of, well, how much money do I want to accrue? How much is it worth letting that counter go up to allow me to make myself more powerful with extra experience and items and what have you? And also sometimes you really want to rush through and you just can't find the teleporter. And so there's so many different sort of micro decisions that setup draws out of you. And that's what makes it so compelling. The game's excellent. It's on Switch. It's on all the consoles. We played it on PC. I think with mouse aim and with all the extra inputs, I think that's the best way to play it. But I imagine all those consoles work. Hoppo have always done an excellent job of optimizing their games for other systems. Check this game out. It's excellent. So that's the 2 co-op ones. And if anyone does want to play co-op, in the How Long to Beat Discord, we have Risk of Rain 2 sessions running. That's a thing that you can join in on. So think on that. We've already talked about Guardians of the Galaxy. 2 games I was playing last week that I've beaten in single player. The first one of those is The Blind Prophet. So it's like a LucasArts-esque adventure game. the art's gorgeous. I don't really want to say too much about it because there isn't loads to say about it. Certainly not much more than what I said last week. The art's incredible. The music's really, really good. The story is somewhat unique. I wouldn't say it's incredible, but it's certainly enough to hold you and carry you through the adventure. It's very much one for genre fans, I'd say. The logic for the puzzles is always pretty straightforward. They've done a good job of sort of mapping that curve and making it all relatively intuitive. But I think there's better games to play before you come to this if you haven't played some of the Monkey Islands, Beneath a Steel Sky. Not quite identical, but some of the Telltale games. I think there's better genre examples to jump into before you go to this. But I had a great time with it. I found the art especially compelling. It's like playing a comic book. The art's beautiful. I can't overemphasize just how amazing it is. Especially for such a small project. This was a Kickstarter thing. I didn't back the Kickstarter. I bought it after the fact, but it's always worth bearing in mind with a game like this. So go and check it out if that sounds even remotely interesting to you. And then the last one I played, and I think this is interesting in the concept, in the context rather of your recent Metroid Dread playthrough, Alex. I played a little Metroidvania called Time Spinner, which I thought was bloody exceptional. I had a great time with this one. Very much wears its Symphony of the Night.
Ooh, that's music to my ears there.
Right down to having like familiars and various like bits and bobs like that. Like you can tell that they basically said, "I love that. I want to make one of those." The orbs, I think, are a nice approach to weaponry. So there's a much smaller pool, but they each do very unique things. They also bleed into your equipment system, and they have their own sort of experience gain and level progression. They always give you a reason to try them out versus the other ones that you have. There are some that are infinitely better than others, but there's enough there to play with over what is relatively a short campaign. To hit an ending, it took me just shy of 6 hours.
That's not bad.
I think it's a really good length for what it does. If you then want to go and sort of get the proper ending and tie some other bits in, there's like a gauntlet mode that you can tie in with some optional bosses. You can get sort of closer to 8.5, 9 hours out of the game. Quite an involved story for a Metroidvania. One that I think was actually remarkably deep, went to some interesting places. I think very commendable in that respect, and actually a big plus in a way that most Metroidvanias don't have that. So I think that's worth shouting out. Otherwise, it's a great Metroidvania. Like I gave it a 9 out of 10, and I feel in a way that I didn't with games like Blasphemous. I feel quite confident in saying you should go and play this, even if you haven't played some of the other greats first. It's on Vita, which is always a massive plus. And in reviews, you might see some stuff about performance. It has been patched since those reviews happened. I had an incredibly smooth experience throughout. Alex, you said you have it on Switch, so I imagine it's also there.
It's often very cheap on Switch, and I would imagine around good old Boxing Day time, this will probably be down.
For sure. And it's on PS4 and 5. It's on the Xbox consoles. It's on PC. It's basically all the places that you'd expect to play it. And I think it's really, really worth a look, especially given its slightly shorter length for the genre, and especially if you can get it on a discount. I paid full price. I was more than happy with my experience at full price. I think it's a really good game. And yeah, I've just had a really, really strong set of completions compared to what I've had for the past few weeks, which is nice. Yeah. Some easy recommendations there, especially Risk of Rain 2 and especially Guardians of the Galaxy of the 5. But they're all well worth playing of the ones that I've talked about this week. As equally is the one retirement we've got this week, Alex.
Dun, dun,
Just because
dun.
it's a good game doesn't mean I want to play it.
Oh snap!
Shots
Oh,
fired.
It's actually funny. Like I want to jump in on this too, though, because I see some people talk about there was a discussion on the Discord recently about like ratings and like reviews and how because like, we're talking about Fantasy Critic League and like why is 7 considered like something lower than that a bad game, and then people are also saying like 7s are so often given out, like an 8s and all that they're so often, but like I think the reality is that a lot of games nowadays are just very technically sound, right? Like many games are just good, right? And so like the distinctions are now even, I think even more so, very much in the subjective realm, right? Like what do you actually enjoy or what are you in the mood for? And so I retired Rhythm Heaven, which is a phenomenal game. Like it's very fun. It's a good rhythm game. But what I also realize is like as I'm playing through it, I got about halfway through. It's just I prefer more WarioWare micro games than this style of like specifically rhythm focused games. And when it comes to rhythm games, I prefer more along the lines of games like Guitar Hero or like, you know, rhythm music games where you're like trying to hit along to like the rhythm of a song. I prefer that than just games that are riffing off the idea of rhythm. That being said, this is a game that I think people should try because it's quite unique. But I was like, I'm not having as much fun now. Like I'm just feel like I'm trying to just kind of memorize how these sort of rhythm sections work. And I'm also not particularly incredibly good at rhythm, right? Like I have okay rhythm that came from my time of playing music. But I don't think like my rhythm isn't like very incredibly good, you know, like I'm not like spot on to rhythm all the time. Like it can take me a little bit. I'm pretty good at like staying on a beat. And I think that comes from like my practice playing piano and guitar and everything, like having to stay on a beat. But when they start to mess with it, and we talked about this before, I'm quite bad at that when they start to kind of mess around and change it up really fast on me. Like I need more of a measured beat. So
I love that, especially with the choir singers when they start having you do like offbeats and
and like that. I'm honestly not good at that, you know. So anyway, Rhythm Heaven is very fun. It's also a game that's in bursts, you know, and like I got my fill of it. Like by the time I got to the fifth one, I was like, that's actually what I wanted from this game. I got what I wanted. I don't need to like play it through to completion. Someday I might, but today I won't. So again, good game. In fact, a very good game, but just not for me. And that's really what? Yeah, sorry, Paula.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough, right? I do recommend people try it though. Like I really think people should give this a shot. It's like you can get it on the DS. I played it on my hacked 3DS. So, pop it on there and just try it because you'll probably have a really fun time, though you might not get all the way through. And it does let you skip sections if it's particularly hard because this really, really relies on you having good rhythm. Like that's like paramount in this, you know? Okay, well, why don't we move on then to what we're playing? I don't know. Paula, why don't you go ahead because we've both been chatting.
Yeah, I only have like a couple of things that I've been playing, mainly because, first of all, I changed platforms again for Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War because I really like seeing the sprites like on the big screen and all that. But I don't know, for me, Fire Emblem has always been a portable experience, so it kind of felt wrong. So I'm playing on my 3DS. That is not a 3DS. A Nintendo Switch Lite. Because if you have the what's the name for it?
Nintendo Switch Online.
The Nintendo Switch Online subscription, you can actually like download the Famicom and Super Famicom and just play it. So Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War is available on the Super Famicom service kind of thing. And it is completely in Japanese, sadly. But I am getting used to like just having like a translation guide on the side, and I found like a cheat sheet with all like the icon abilities and stuff like that, and the descriptions and what they actually do. So I'm pretty much replaying everything I already played to catch up and like properly play the game the way I prefer. But the star of the week for me is Cupid Parasite, because this might be one of my like S-tier Otome games here.
Oh.
That's how much I've been enjoying it. Like, first of all, even just presentation wise, it is nuts. Because first of all, the artist for this game is Yuya, and that's the same artist that made the character designs for Café Enchanté. And you all know how I fucking love Café Enchanté and how pretty I think it is. And Cupid Parasite doesn't fall behind on that department. Like, it has some amazingly cool cities on pretty much all the routes. Like composition wise, I like the watching was okay. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole, but it is a very pretty game. Also, the music. You have to listen to both the opening and the ending of this song. The opening is amazing. It's very energetic, and the ending is totally chill, and I love it. And of course, the comedy on this game is top notch so far. Like that is one very difficult thing to nail in these kind of games. And the localization of some of the jokes is actually pretty good. So
Nice.
there you go. And the game doesn't take itself seriously. I already said this is a rom-com, and you're gonna laugh a lot. And there's like some out there moments that is like they don't make sense, but they're hilarious, and it is just a good time. Like so, I am currently on my 5th route. I finished the Prestige Parasite, Shelby Snail route, and kind of it kind of like depicted a more like modern couple where both people like work and have like their personal like work life. They're kind of like both workaholics and then just spend time home. You have the and it has one of the coolest CGs of the game. That was amazing. Sorry. And you have the 3rd route who was the obsessed parasite, and that was Raul, the Sillywood actor. And that character kind of like revolve around the Ludus kind of love, that is like love for fun. So since this actor kind of like had to act into a romantic movie, but he's kind of like the kind of person that can properly act something if they lived through something similar before. He was having a very hard time with it. So like the protagonist being Cupid, she was like, hey, we're gonna teach you what emotions are like. So and we have to like fix like things here, because being like the Ludus kind of character, he's like, oh yep, he pretty much used to like sleep with other people for fun, and that was kind of like showing on how seriously he was taking the role. This route went places, especially like with the gods and stuff, and I don't want to spoil it, but damn, I wasn't expecting like the gods from Celestia like to actually be involved on some of this stuff, which I don't know why I didn't expect it. The protagonist is Cupid, but things went crazy near the end of the route. And it was like a very satisfying route overall. The progression, like first of all, like the progression for the protagonist Lynette and Raul's relationship was very interesting and very satisfying, like to watch overall. But also, they actually went like on a little adventure because of how Raul is obsessed with mythology, and he was like, "Hey, the professor of this university, like the pretty much like the leader of the mythology club, said they found like ruins and stuff, and they had to explore the ruins and excavate like stuff. Don't ask. It makes no sense why they go there, but it is one of my favorite like portions of the game, and it was incredibly executed. Finally, I finished. I went through Ryuki's route too, and that is the glamour parasite. And he's like more of Eros kind of person. Like he loves beauty in general. So this character has synesthesia, I think it is pronounced, where he kind of like perceives people as colors to a degree. And
I have a friend
to him, every
I said I have a friend who actually has synesthesia. She like sees like when people speak, in general, like she'll see colors. It's like in your peripheral vision, like sounds, music, people's voices. It's not so much that you see into, I mean, I don't know how this game's interpreting it, but it's like there's a tint of color in her periphery whenever they're like based on certain sounds and noises.
But it probably is something like that. Also, I also had a friend who had synesthesia. He could taste colors, and he fucking hated the color purple. He said it was fucking disgusting.
Yeah, it's such a varied thing. Like, anyway, sorry. Go ahead. This is like totally not related. It's just I find it interesting. It's like people's experiences with it can be vastly different. It's really interesting.
Yeah. I really find synesthesia as a whole interesting, but okay, back to the thing. So yeah, like Ryuki kind of has his own brand. He's a fashion designer, and the thing with him is that his family itself is like so ingrained on beauty itself that if he finds someone like unattractive about like below a certain score, he pretty much like doesn't notice them. And it's like, okay, if you're like this pretty, then we can have like a working relationship. If you're like this pretty, we can be acquaintances and then friends. And then it's like above this score, I'll maybe start considering you like love material. So it was like very rough for Lynette. Oh my god! So it was like very difficult for Lynette. Like Lynette always ends up like so fucking frustrated because of how these guys are like so quirky. To the point like he was pissed at Raul, like utterly pissed. It's like, fuck you. If follow these instructions or I'm not talking to you ever again as your instructor. And with Ryuki, it became a little bit more difficult because like since he also like perceived people like as with a like an aura of color or something like that. They're like a group of colors that he tries to erase from memories he sees them, and he also talks in color codes. Like if you meet him, he will give you a hex code that is supposed to be like the color you have. I also really what I like from this route is how how their relationship went like in a very organic way. When like from working relationship to acquaintances to friends to lovers. And also, I really like the secondary couple because again, Lynette is a bright advisor, so she kind of have too much help like these two particular people. But the girl she was advising kind of have like insecurities like with her appearance and stuff, and she actually got Ryuki to like do a seminar on like fashion and stuff like that, and it really like it kind of like worked really well to the point like this character who was like very shy ended up like chewing Ryuki's ear off after a certain point in the game, and I was like, yeah, go girl. And yeah, this route is probably the most lighthearted of the entire game, and some people said that it's like better played as the first route, but I really think playing it as the fourth route was the best idea ever because of how crazy Raul's story is and how out there, because it is Alan's route, which is the fifth route that I'm currently playing. And if I remember correctly, Alan's is love type is media, and that is enthusiastic love. But it's also like the more, I don't want to say sad route of the game, but it has like I want to say less comedy, and it focuses more on something that happened before the game. And this route made me go full tinfoil hat theory. So yeah, I am very invested in this route right now because there's like breadcrumbs that were like left like during the first 4 routes of the game, and then you start like, hey, wait a second, why is he trying to do this? Oh wait, but that is related to this, and that is related to that, and yeah, I really want to see where this is gonna go. But yeah, that is Cupid Parasite for this week. I played a bunch of it. I am sorry for the long update. Take a potato.
And the audience will be happy to know that your Switch is sealed away in case your finger slips.
Oh yeah, because I had to like clean up the apartment, and I was like, okay, if I keep playing this, I'm gonna do shit.
Screwed.
So,
Rick, why don't you go ahead and let us know what you're playing? Because why don't you go ahead? Yeah, you always have to go last usually when we do playing. So why don't you go second?
Yeah, I suppose I do. And I've got a fair bit on the go, to be fair. So I'm still playing Risk of Rain 2, so that's still sat in the playing. When we beat it, I'll confess we beat it on easy. Fake gamers. So we are playing some more. A, because it's an excellent game. B, because we want to beat it on normal. And oh shit. See, Cock was like, "Oh, you have to like describe it this way." He just blurted out in the middle of one of our playthroughs, was like, "Oh yeah, Risk of Rain 2 from abortion to euthanasia."
Well, now I'm intrigued.
Yeah, you're not getting any more context from me. So we're still playing that. I played some more Peace Walker on Vita. I now have the rocket launcher that launches Fulton recovery balloons, and it's glorious. You just fire this rocket at a group of enemies, and it emits a plume of smoke, and then they all just go flying up into the air. It's amazing. I've basically been completing X-Drops for like 15 hours cumulatively at this point to get to the point where I've unlocked this rocket launcher, and it was worth every second. I've got like 10 extra ops left to complete. I will probably save the rest of those till Christmas because there's like a few vehicle battles, and they're always best played in co-op, so that'll be when I see my brother again next. The game's still amazing. If you have any way to play it, you should still play it. I feel like it's up there with some of the best games of that generation. And it's definitely the groundwork for what happened with MGS5, and people loved that. So if you love that, you'll probably love this as well. Oracle of Seasons is still technically on my playing. I've still not gotten beyond like the first cutscene, really. So I do need to get to that. It's still technically there. I've played a little bit more of The Witcher. I am slowly chipping away at that. That's one where, again, I'll probably sort of have a bit more time to sort of sit down and commit myself to it over Christmas, now that Guardians is finished, yada, yada. I started a PSP RPG called Crimson Gem Saga. This is very much RPG the RPG. It's very, very stock. But the art's kind of nice. The story's inoffensive. And this game has a weird nostalgia for me. So when it came out, it had an iOS port as well. And that iOS port was always like £6 or £7, which is more than I really wanted to spend on an iOS game. But I always sort of lusted after the iOS version. And then years and years and years later, find out that it was actually on the PSP originally. And it's kind of interesting playing this game that I wanted a little bit to play for so long. And, you know, so far it's nice. I don't know if I'll stick with it, but the combat system's inoffensive. It doesn't really do anything wrong. So far it's fine.
Fine, TM. That's been our whole week.
literally. So we'll see where that one goes. And one that, unfortunately, so far for me has not even reached the vaunted heights of fine TM is Chicory. I admittedly, I've only played like 20 minutes of it.
Oh,
I'm not very far in at all.
You're not even.
I'm not very far in.
You're not even in the hook yet. Yeah.
This game has not hooked me yet. I am very much committed to playing more of it. We will see if it gets me in the way that it got you, Alex. But so far, it has not.
I think
that so far is not very long.
Yeah, because when you told me at first, I was like, "Oh shoot, I guess he's not." But then when you told me 20 minutes, I went, "Oh, never mind. All right." I'm curious to see what you think. There's a certain point where, for me, it like grabbed me because I also agree with you. Like when I was first starting it, I was like, "Okay, this is fine." Like, you know what I mean? Like there was nothing really. Like I was like, "All right," but there's a certain point where the kind of really the conceit of it really kind of hits properly, and you're like, "Oh, cool, okay," and like then it becomes a little more fun. So I'm curious to see if that'll happen for you or not.
I think they could have done the intro a lot better, knowing roughly where some of it goes based on what you've said. I think they could really do a better job of onboarding. Not least because the game asked me what my favorite food was, and I answered it. And then characters in the game started referring to me as steak. Okay. It's like, okay, that's what I'm called now. Cool.
I'm pretty sure you can change your name too, though, if you want to.
I'm kind of committed to steak now.
Yeah, I'm bread. Yeah. That's who my character was.
That's not your favorite food, you boring boy.
No, bread is straight up my favorite food because it is the most
versatile it's not.
Food
That's
of all
a lie.
Time. You bet it is. Pizza's bread. Sandwiches are bread. All of it's bread. No. It's all flour. I love bread.
No, you're wrong. Stop.
But you don't understand. I will eat bread always. Anyway, sorry. I'm excited to see what you think as you get further through it. I mean, there's a chance you'll hate it, but I don't know.
Welcome back to the How Long to Eat podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well,
How Long to Wheat podcast in your case, and the How Long to Meat podcast in my case.
There you go. Yeah, I'm playing a couple new games actually that I just started because I just beat a bunch of old longins, right? Well, I don't know.
I love that you just didn't even engage with that. You're like, right,
no, I'm just gonna move right on. Though I should say, actually, for those who might be wondering, there is the 12 games of Itchmas going on right now, and we are actually planning on doing like an actual episode about that later. Because we figured it's better to talk about all of those once they've all happened. But just if you're wondering, like, why didn't he talk about any of those? We are playing them, but we're going to save a conversation for a bit later. And I've been having fun so far. The discussion's great. If you're not doing this, check out the Discord, look on How Long to Beat forums. We've got some great discussions going on in the games right now. We're like 4 or 5 days in as of recording. It's been wonderful. Although by the time this comes out, it might be done.
Those games aren't going anywhere, though. You can play along in your own time.
Exactly, all month and forever after, I guess. So, I started Monster Hunter Rise on the Switch. Oh, this is a game. Like, oh my god. You ever had that feeling when you walk into a game and you're like, oh, holy shit. There's a lot I need to learn. And like that is the feeling entering into Hunter Rise, where I'm like, oh no, this is very much an established thing. And like, I bet you there are people who come into this and like suddenly I get it when like people talk about Pokemon, they're like, oh my god, why do I have to fucking do the catching the ball thing again here? And like, as someone who's never played a Monster Hunter game, I'm like, okay, no, I understand why we need a very detailed tutorial at the beginning of all these games. Because I'm like, what's happening? Like, there's just so much in this game. And like, I don't understand the control scheme because I've just never played one. So I feel like a dummy all over again. But it's beautiful. Like, Capcom sold their souls to some kind of demons or something. Because like, this thing looks way better than anything should ever be allowed to look on the Switch. And the character models too, like, holy crap. And this is why I complain about Dread. This shit looks so much better. Like, it is so good looking. So I'm just delving in. I have hardly gotten anywhere with this game. Like, I literally went through the tutorial and I'm wire bugging around and I chose dual blades because I want to be fast. So I'm not doing that. Though I always hit the wrong button because I keep forgetting, I'm playing on my Xbox and X is Y, but Y is potion in Monster Hunter. Fuck. So I'm just like on my Palamute and I've got drinking a potion and I'm like, shit, I have a limited amount of potions. I'm like, why'd you stop drinking a potion when I hit people? So
I did the exact opposite way around. I'm used to like the Nintendo orientation, then my Steam controller's got the Xbox one. And I like do a QTE on PC and I have to look at my controller to see which button I'm hitting.
I know, right? That's why I hate QTEs. I'm like, I don't fucking know. I play games on so many devices, man. I don't have all these inputs memorized. I'm like, give me a minute. So anyway, I will regale you all with the adventures of a first-time Monster Hunter over the next few weeks because I'm committed to playing this game and beating it because I can tell it's good. I just really want to like understand why people enjoy these. I don't envision myself becoming a big Monster Hunter player. You know what I mean? Like, I have too many incredible series that I'm way too into to get this into this one, but I really want to try Rise because it seems like it is a more accessible one. But like, I didn't even realize, like, walking right into it, there's like village quests, and those are like the single player ones, and there's the hub quest, which is like the playing with friends quests. But I was like, oh, are these the normal? Oh no, oh, go to the village. And I was like, what is happening? It's just like, okay. Anyway, if someone wants to play Monster Hunter Rise with me, to help a dummy out, I will happily play. So yeah, I'm playing that. I also, okay, I don't know why I bought this, but I bought Lego Harry Potter collection because it was like $10, and I was like, I wouldn't mind playing that. And these games are really cute. Like I don't know, they're just fun. Like I love the like weird, silly way that they, and this is of course before they were doing the voice acting, and I love it without the voice acting. I'm sure it's fine with it, but like watching them mime their way through Harry Potter is just very funny to me. So I've just been having a good time. Are they simple? Duh. Like it's just a collectathon, but it's like I love being able to like, create Lego things and like, make everything do weird, funny things. Like they have such a good sense of humor to them that I actually find like fairly genuine. Like it's one of the few games where like I actually chuckle while playing at times. I was like sitting there, I was like, it's pretty good. And it's a perfect game to play while watching TV or something because there's no talking. So you're just, you're just watching funny things happen. And of course they use like the movie music. So pretty good stuff. Anyway, playing that. And then lastly, I have started playing Tales of Arise. What a strong 5-hour start. Like I have to say, how often JRPGs, like I picked it up and I was like, here we go. Like, am I going to have like a, 1 hour opening segment where I just watch? But no, this game gets you going like right away and puts you into the heart of like a dungeon and like battling like very fast. And like, it's like a really solid first 5 hours. And so instead of like often where I feel like JRPGs, the first 5 is like, okay, you just got to get through that shit and then, it'll be fun, right? Like that's kind of what I feel like a lot of the times. But this one, no, like it is right off the bat. And the combat system is fun. I could see how maybe this combat system might get a little stale, but like, because, it's like an action RPG, but you can switch through all your characters, but the characters will also fight independently. So I think to keep it from being stale, it's probably a good idea to switch between your party members once in a while and then manually control different people just to like kind of, shake things up a little bit, which I did try doing and I found quite enjoyable. It's absolutely stunningly gorgeous. I mean, it looks like I don't even know, a cartoon come to life, right? Like it's just it's so colorful, and that's I think what I love. Like often we've had like a lot of those muted games, but the colors in this are so vibrant and just bright and beautiful, and it's totally weeby. Like it's just like it's so anime at times. Like the way that they talk, like the main character occasionally he's just like, but you want to help people. You are such a good person. Like this kind of, like that kind of thing. And she's like, whatever. Like all that stuff, like it's so stupid, but like it's endearingly so. Like I would say it's kind of like, there are all those like just as there are like generic Western RPGs, right? Where you're just like in like a fantasy-esque world and you do this or that. This is very much the JRPG version, right? It's generic, but it's made by such a competent studio and team that it's like a generic JRPG polished. You know what I mean? Like, is it incredible? No, but it's like the best you could be playing, I think. And so it makes for like a really strong experience. It's like, I don't know, Scarlet Nexus came out recently, I think, and people were like, it's okay. And it's like, if a game like that, if it was just more polished and better kind of deal. So, I think what I'm describing is a good game. But, it has a particular nostalgic feel for me too, just because Tales of Symphonia on the GameCube was one of my favorites, and like I absolutely loved that game, and I love the action RPG stylings of it. And the Tales games can be a bit hit or miss, but I think they're always sturdy. Like I don't really think there are any like bad Tales of games. There are generic Tales of games, and then there are like those real standouts, and I do think Tales of Symphonia stands up. I actually replayed it just a few years ago and it was very good. Vesperia is quite good as well, but this one is probably the best that I've played so far. It's just very competent. The story is fascinating and interesting. The side quests are handled extremely well. Like the side quest management in this is excellent. Like they give you very clearly who can give you the side quests. They parse them out excellently. The rewards for completing side quests are meaningful and like actually feel like it's a good idea to do so, because you get SP towards unlocking what are called arts. So like skills that you could use in combat, and then passive buffs as well. And getting enough SP to unlock those can be a little bit difficult. Obviously if you battle like really strong monsters, you can get them, but just through general battles, you'll get SP, but you're not going to get like absurd amounts of it. So that way, though, if you play side quests, you often get like a really sizable chunk of SP for completing a side quest. And the side quests, already I found they're like actually fairly varied. Like some of them are just like go to this place and get this thing, or like go hunt a couple monsters. But like the combat is so much fun that hunting the monsters doesn't feel like a chore. But then you also have one where like a guy wants to dress more fashionably. So like Xion, the girl in it, is like, I'll help you. And like, you're just like judging his fashion. And like, so I'm like, it's just kind of fun like that. So anyway, highly recommend Tales of Arise. Very good game. But what isn't super good about that game is its box art. Moving on to our main topic is box art for this week. Yeah, well, I mean, its box art's fine, but it's just the two main characters standing. Although it is kind of cool. But anyway, it's just two people. But yes, if you can't guess, we're talking about box art this week. And this is coming from a question that we got from Frozen Roy about like what our favorite and least favorite box art is, which we'll get to in a little bit. But we thought we'd just combine this question into just one big old topic this week and talk a little bit about what makes box art good, or box art trends, or whatnot. And I think Paula has like a freaking presentation she wants to give us on some of this.
And I'm glad it's Paula first because I'm still recoiling from whatever that excuse for a segue was. Oh my goodness.
It was fine.
Yeah, like
the box art, look it up.
it
Tales
was
of Arise's
fine,
box
too.
art is just fine. You know, it's just,
Yeah,
just standing there.
This game has bad box art. Speaking of box art.
Yeah, there you go.
There's no lead. It was just like,
But actually, thinking of Tales of, so this would have been a better segue, but Tales of Arise to me actually displays like one of the kind of tropes of box art that I think we see fairly frequently now, which is just like the main character and or both main characters standing with whatever weapon they happen to have in a kind of heroic pose.
and Arise
Oh
is
my
like
God,
literally
yeah.
a white background, right?
No. It's got this like brownish, like black background thing. Like it's artful. It's got like Renin, like the
Okay.
moon and the planet. Like it's not. It's again, box art even these days. It's not like I could ever say it's like shite. There have been, but like
Mhm.
these days, a lot of the box art, it's competent, right? It's kind of like movie posters where you're like, yeah, it works. It's a little generic, but I guess it works.
And you can definitely invert
Yeah.
that. So, like, give two recent examples. Vanquish, main character doing thing
Mhm.
with weapon, but like that conveys the sense of momentum. It conveys, in some respects, sort of the Asian take on the Western sort of third person action game. It gives you a very clear sense of what that game is going to be. And then conversely, a game like Control, like that main box art is literally just Jesse stood with a gun, but like you can see she's doing a superpowery thing. You can see sort of the utilitarian art on the back. It gives you the motifs, and I think it builds a sense of intrigue. So you can, like you said, like a movie poster, even if it's like by the numbers, you can still do clever stuff with that. Sorry, Paula, go ahead.
It's okay. I don't know, like what makes box art good in general. It's first of all, if it's good art, and one of the trends of like the main character looking straight at the viewer, I guess, kind of like irks me because it's like it doesn't feel natural. Like one of the things that I was always taught when I was like learning to draw is that you don't want the subject like looking to the camera because it's like they are just posing. And the other thing is that when a picture tells a story, it stands out more than if it's just a pose and something generic in the background. So that's one of the those are two of the main things that I've noticed, like looking at what I listed as my favorite box art. Conversely, if what makes box art rough, if it doesn't give you like any fucking idea of what the game is about, if it's kind of like maybe it's if the art or the pose or whatever is kind of like awkward or kind of weird. And one of the trends that I kind of like hate the most is like just character on background, and there's like nothing interesting in the background. But I think the other thing that some sports games that we're doing, correct me if I'm wrong, is they have like just screenshots or something like that, like series of screenshots of the game, like in the books, and I was like, why?
Because
Why
most
would you do
sports
that?
games, at least the EA ones, it's usually just a player, like who's been
Yeah.
like they've done a contract with a really important player for that year, and they're around the front of the cover. Sports game covers are garbage.
Yeah.
But they also don't need to be anything more than what they
Yes.
are, because if you're buying that game, it's not because you saw something incredible about the box that drew you in. You bought it because all your friends are playing it. Like
Yeah.
that's how sports games be.
I also
Yeah,
think
that is true.
there's something to be said as well about box art in general, because like what's the fucking point of box art? like in this day and age, do you know what I mean? Like it's actually something that I try to think about, because as much as I love good box art, I'm also like, does it sell the game? Because I'm not sure it does.
It does.
But does it actually sell the game these days, right? Like in a store per se, maybe, but so often it's like spines on a wall.
Box art's changed though. Box art is not the art on the box in the way we think. It's the little square that you see on the digital storefront. Box art has changed. It hasn't gone away. And I don't think it ever truly will, because ultimately you are still going to be trying to sort of capture people in a sale page or on like the new releases on that.
And that's actually...
And also, I also got into Tim items because of how the box art itself intrigued me.
And I don't mean...
Sorry, Alex, you're going to jump in.
Oh yeah, like I was gonna say, like I do think for like us, for instance, like yeah, I like it and whatnot, but I think it is interesting what you're mentioning, where like box art has changed very much, and I actually think those little squares, some of them are really good, like on like the eShops and whatnot. I'm like that's actually seems to be to me where some of that like real work has been going. But yeah, because like I thought about it, and I'm like in the store and whatnot, like you rarely even look at, like I love a good box art, but I look at it and then I was like, I'll put you a little spine on my shelf. I'm just like, bye-bye. And like maybe that's an underrated aspect of box art though, is also the spine. I'm like, give me a good spine.
Yeah, but we're also the kind of people who are like, oh yeah, the box art's sick, but what's the game like? Whereas there are a lot of people, maybe not so much in the present, but in the past, who would like see a good box art and be like, oh, I'll take it home and I'll try it.
Yeah. Fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we have an interesting perspective, in the sense that we don't really put as much weight into them as other people might.
Yeah, or some of us like put way too much weight on the box art. Like I am a very curious person, so if there's been like a bunch of times where I'm just like window shopping at some at Paseo Las Palmas here in Chile, and I see like one game that is like the box art is just good, and I'm like, I want to try that game, but should I? And like the third time I see the box art, it's like, okay, I'm buying it. Also, I am a very impulsive person, so that may be why.
My finger slipped and I bought the game.
My finger slipped and I bought the game. It has happened more than I would like to admit.
Oh dear.
Oh my god. I was gonna say also though, I think something maybe we can all agree on though is that like when it comes to good box art, I think Japan knocks it out of the box like far more fucking often than the West does. Like I just like in general, I'm even just looking at like right now, like there's like a sale on Sega games or whatnot, and like Shin Megami Tensei 5's cover art, that fucking cool. Like I just like I look at that thing and I was like, that's dope. Like I don't even really know what's going on, but like my eye is drawn, and yeah, it's like a main character, but like there's just stuff going on in that picture. And like even the Persona 5 Strikers one that I got, like there's so much going on in these photos, and yet they have like a clear, like your eye is pulled towards a focal point, and like it's just like good art, And yeah,
I was going to say that's the interesting inflection point, which I think is where we're both leading, which is there's incredible art, there's art that conveys what the game is, and there's a beautiful sort of narrow sliver where the two form a Venn diagram. And I think the majority of games that nail that are from the East.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yoshitaka Amano, his art is a staple, and ultimately it does
Yes.
convey sort of the grand adventure that those Final Fantasies are supposed to be. It always tends to blend sort of specific themes or specific characters or unique elements of that game into it. So, like if you look at Final Fantasy IV, for example, Kane isn't the main character, but it's the character that Amano chose to portray because really it conveys the most of the story. And having played the story and then going back in the way that that character is drawn, it really does tell a tale. You look at Vanillaware's games, whether it's Grim Grimoire, whether it's 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, whether it's Dragon's Crown, whether it's Odin's Sphere, those are exceptional pieces of art, but they all convey something about the characters within them and the story in a way that I know the one that's always lambasted is Bioshock Infinite, because that is literally just Booker with a gun. Doesn't tell you anything about the game, doesn't tell you anything about the story, doesn't give you anything really except there's a guy and he has a gun. And I think that's really the marker of good box art, is whether you can glean anything from it, even if it's amazing art to start with.
Yeah, and like that is, I know, I agree with you too there, because like the question is like, can you actually tell what's going on with this? And this to me is maybe a good segue, because I really want to talk about for a second the fucking SNES. Because the SNES box art is fucking garbage. Like, I know for a lot of us, there's going to be this like nostalgia factor, but especially North America, because I don't know how it went over in good old Europe, but the North American one, this black thing with this weird packaging thing on the side and this cropped artwork in the middle, and then you look at the Super Famicom, and that box art is beautiful. This like vertical, gorgeous box art, like almost every single one of them. And like, I think a case in point too is like, I believe it's Dragon Quest, even like 3 or whatnot, on like the Super Famicom version of it. Or no.
I was going to say, did 3 get a Super Famicom release? I thought it was 4, 5, and 6.
No. I think I'm talking about, oh yeah, no, I am talking about Dragon Quest 3. It did have, though it's a custom game case or whatever. Anyway, whatever. It's one of those ones. Maybe it was 5. Oh gosh darn it. I had this looked up for, it was 6. It was 6. That's the one I'm talking about. Dragon Quest 6. If you look at the Dragon Quest 6 Super Famicom like box art, it is gorgeous. They're on this dragon. Yeah. It's super cool. And then you go to look at the Dragon Quest 6 for the SNES, and it's just like, why? Like, it's just why? Honest to God. Like, it's like, it is such a fucking mess. Like, it is a mess. The characters' proportions are like, it's a mess. There's this weird Enix logo. There's this black bar going all over it. And then, in other words, you could have this like gorgeous looking freaking box art on the SNES. So it's just beautiful vertical. And like, oh man, I don't know. Like, I feel like that, like, it didn't translate over beautifully, like sometimes box art is designed for one, and then North America's like, all right, what should we do? Oh fuck, I don't know, let's just put the characters standing next to each other. And you're like, is that gonna sell it? I don't know, man, no one buys this shit here. So they're just like, you know what I mean?
Oh, God. Like, speaking of characters standing next to each other, I actually noticed a couple of trends on the Otome box art, and that's most of the stuff I have on these PowerPoint presentations, so allow me to
Paula has a PowerPoint for it. It's great.
Yep. So let me like try to slideshow. You can see it? Okay, nothing fancy, don't worry. So the thing with welcome to my TED Talk about box art, especially on the trends in the Otome box art.
So the research has shown that
you laugh about it, but I actually did some research.
Oh, bless you.
Okay, so there's like about 3 trends on the Otome box art, and one of them it's called the Box Boy, where the developers kind of like decide on what the canon route is, or either like just one of the good-looking guys, and they kind of like show him with the protagonist. And in the case of Amnesia Memories, which by the way only got a physical release in Japan, you have like Shin with the protagonist. On Pericube, you have like the character who's supposed to be kind of like the childhood friend, and he's kind of like the canon route. And then you get the Japanese version for Psychedelica of the Asian Hawk actually has Lucas as the protagonist, and it's kind of the one of the prettier or less messy box arts I've seen in a while, but still, it kind of like and this is a thing that a lot of Otome players don't like, the fact that companies kind of like market one of the particular routes as like the canon route, and it's like, no, let me have my head canon here. Like everything is canon. Let me have
They
a
picked the
voice.
shittest dude to put on the cover as well. Let's be real.
Yeah. Although I
Yeah,
went for him.
it depends. It depends.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
especially like on Period Q, like the guy who they put in the cover is like, why? Anyways, you can have more than one box boy. So in the case of Pio Fiore no Banshou, Ricordo, the Japanese release of Pio Fiore, you have two of the more like plot relevant characters that are kind of like the fan favorites on over there in Japan. That are Dante and Gilbert, because one of them is like kind of like the more plot related background route for the protagonist, and the other one is just fan favorite overall. And you have the protagonist like in the background. Then you have Cupid Parasite, and you have like kind of a sandwich situation where you have the protagonist just looking back at the viewer, and you have like two of the boys over there that are Gil and Alan. And overall, like it's a very colorful box art, but it doesn't really tell you shit about the game. And this is like an ongoing theme for a lot of these. Like the most you could have like from, I don't even think you could have like the Mafia theme for Pio Fiore if you didn't like that beforehand. And then you have Nor 9, especially like the Switch version, where you have, in this game there's actually 3 female protagonists, and each of them have 3 routes. So they pretty much took like the canon route for each of them and plastered them into box art. And now that I look at it, like it's very subtle, but you have like that kind of like power thing going on because of one of the characters is sprouting a plant from his hand. But that is like so not noticeable that it's like, why even put it there? And then you have the group picture that is a more popular trend here on the West. So it's pretty much, sometimes you have the main character, like in Cafe Enchanté and Olympias, and you have like all the boys in the background. Again, you have no fucking idea what the game is about.
Though I gotta say, I kind of like that Cafe Enchanté one. Like, I'm kind of like,
yeah, it is very freaking pretty.
pretty, but you don't know what's going on. That's fair.
Yeah,
like if you asked me what
box art in a nutshell.
Yeah, if you asked me what's going on in Olympia Soiree, I'd be like, I don't fucking know, man. An orgy? Like, it's just like, I can't see what's happening in there.
That's one kind of soiree.
Hey!
Yeah, Pio Fiore you could have. Oh my god, Pio Fiore you could kind of have like more of a mafia vibe, kind of.
Yeah,
because of
I can see it.
Yeah, you could see that. Cafe Enchanté, I really like the box art for this one because of how I really like the color scheme in general, and all the designs are really, really good. But if you ask me, the limited edition of this game like has kind of that trip picture going on, but it will tell you like this box art for the Western version for Cafe Enchanté tells you what is the vibe of the game for during the common route. But the Japanese version tells you like the overall tone of the game like later on. So with that said, one of my favorite Otome box arts is actually the one for Code Realize.
That's a clean box.
For the listeners at home, this is a box boy.
Yeah, this is a box boy. You have the main character Cardia and Lupin, kind of like a glazing on like looking into each other's eyes. They're not looking like to the at the viewer, and that immediately like puts it above like so many other box arts. But also you have the overall like you kind of get the feeling of or like the sense of the timeline in the game because of how they are dressed. For example, they're like Cardia has more of a very elegant dress going on, and there's like a lot of pieces of what looks like cogs like in the background that are flying like or falling in a way. And the more important detail, one of the more important details that is like very subtle, but it is there. I already said that Cardia has this kind of like poison acidic thing going on where anything she touches like kind of melts away. So if you look there at Lupin's hand,
It's steaming. Yeah.
It's kind of burning. So again, this picture tells a story. It's like how they got to this point and what is going on. Why is he burning away? If you didn't see like any of the trailers, you kind of had that question. So overall, like the composition, how everything is framed, gives you like a general idea of the tone of the game and how the game looks. Because one of the things I really like about Tomato Boxart is that the design of the characters and the overall art style is the same as the game. So like on that front, you know what to expect.
Cool.
And I have another one that is for Chu and Novita.
Oh wait, let's go into our hold on because we're gonna go along here. So,
oh my god, sorry.
What's your least favorite? Let's hear that one.
Oh, my least favorite.
Do you need a second to think on that?
Oh shoot, I didn't prepare that one.
That's fair. Because we can hit in here. Why don't we? Because you've given us plenty of good stuff here. I want to jump in with my favorite actually real quick because my favorite is a recent one and it's actually the great Ace Attorney Chronicles box art, because that box art to me is absolutely stunning. Like the color scheming that is in there, the like, you know, you've got your character front and center, but like all the characters are in these dynamic poses, and yet like all the eyes and looks like come through, and they use like different color shading in order to give like depth and like importance to all the characters within it. It's just like a beautiful piece of artwork that like if I look at it, I'd be like, yeah, I won't play that game. I'm down. I don't know what's going on, but I'm in, you know? And like all the setup, it's like, ooh. Mwah. Rick, what's your favorite before we jump into
I'm going to start with my least favorite because I want you to both bask in the glory of the PS2 classic that is Motor Siege Warriors of Primetime. And there's a good box art that How Long to Beat used. This is the appalling box art, which me and my brother got purely on the strength of the terrible box art. For those listening at home, it is like a early 2000s CG, like ugly Scarface man in a biker helmet. Looks very perturbed by the fact that he's wearing that helmet. And then there's a car driving on like a lava road, and then there's like a ship flying behind it. It's all horribly composed, and it's capstoned by the logo of like the company that shut this game out. Play it.
He looks like a dried up raisin. Like his face.
He actually stupid fuckers put his fucking helmet on me. Grumble, grumble. I love it. And the game's actually quite fun. Me and my brother played a lot of it.
Nice.
I'm gonna cheat in terms of my favorite. I think my single favorite is probably The World Ends With You. I love that art.
That's cool, yeah.
But I want to shout out the DS as a whole because it had so many good box arts. Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey, Valkyrie Profile, Covenant of the Plume, all the Castlevania games that came out on DS, Ghost Trick, Infinite Space, Dimension 2, which has got a guy reaching out of his own body to like grab his face with a hand that's coming out of his mouth, which is actually thematic to the story, but also just a great image for a horror game. Aliens Infestation.
Though I'm gonna hit you with one thing though that was the stupidest DS box art I've ever seen in my life. And
I mean, there was some stupid stuff in the DS. Faux show.
Yeah. But that was Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, Konami's best play. It is the dumbest. It was a picture of the box art of Castlevania shrunken down on the box art.
Actually, no.
I just noticed it's on the box art. Why would you do that?
I know.
You heard it here, guys. Japan does it best.
Yeah, I know, right? For some reason, they did this. I don't know why they did this, but they did this. And like, it's so stupid. It was like a Game of the Year edition. And the only one that I think is worse than it, and this is my official like worst, is Batman Arkham City Game of the Year edition. It is just like
That's pretty gross.
it's horrible. It's just the image, and then it's like 10 out of 10, 5, one of the best games ever, Batman Arkham City, and then it'll say like bonus content, 3 out of 5, 5 out of 5, and like all these logos on the bottom. It's a nightmare. Like there have been so many good people who clowned on this so hard. Like it's just bad. It just looks bad. It's like,
It is very, very bad.
and it's the worst part is that the actual box art of Arkham City, I think, is like pretty freaking cool. Like it's a cool looking thing, like the white shaded Batman like perching on like a stoop. It's like that's pretty neat, but then it's like, nah, let's just fucking ruin it entirely by putting in all the text in the world.
I also want to throw into the ring for terrible DS box art looks pain, purely because the protagonist looks both upset and like he's trying to cross his own eyes.
Yes. Oh god, we'll have to post some of these. We'll pop them in the How Long to Beat podcast Discord when we get a chance, just so you can see some of the crazy shit that we're talking about.
We'll pop them in one of the
Actually-
links you can find down below when you're busy liking this video. Not
There you go.
disliking, because that doesn't matter anymore. Thanks, Daddy YouTube.
Yeah.
But
You'll never get to see us.
Yeah. Actually, like my least favorite box art in general are just like the box arts for the mainline Pokemon games. They're just like usually like the legendary blaster in the books. Why? And especially, I think the one I like the least is for Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. Because I always thought like the legendaries for those games look stupid. Because it's
I'll give you that
a
one.
fusion between. Oh my god, I forgot the name of that one legendary, but it's a legendary that kind of like fused with kind of like the spices from Zekrom and Reshiram, and the result Pokemon is stupid. It's like, no, why would you ever do that?
I feel like they've gotten worse too, because like I don't think the idea in general, and I think the Japanese Pokemon box art looks pretty cool. Like the original Pocket Monsters ones too, like was pretty cool. And like
Oh yeah.
the dynamic poses that they had for like blue and yellow and like all of them were like pretty neat, but yeah, like especially Sword and Shield, what boring looking covers, man. Like
That is so fucking boring.
but like gold and silver were cool, right? They had that like inverted gold silver like spiral thing going on it, and like even I thought the crystal one was super cool with Suicune, like, and the way that they created that like dynamic, and like it's like shiny, so
Yep.
you're like, and like remember, because they were glossy, right? They like shined. You could like
Right.
at least they were. I don't know. Were they shiny for you? I don't know. Were they any different in Europe, Rick? I don't even know. I know sometimes
You're
they are,
asking the wrong guy.
Yeah,
I
right,
played
you
my
don't give
first
a fuck.
Pokemon game this year or last year.
In
Sorry, what were you
general,
saying,
they've
Paula?
been getting worse and worse, and I don't know, the Diamond and Pearl, that Shining Diamond, and
And brilliant,
Something
brilliant
Pearl.
diamond and shining pearl.
thank you. I got the game, and I don't even know the name of the game. But those in particular, I feel it's like, okay, they have the pose, but it's just the model,
Yeah, I think it
and
started
it's
with
not
platinum.
like the best pose.
Yeah, because the platinum was stupid looking. It's just like you've got that guy, and then there's like black and red shooting at the screen. You're like, what the fuck? And then like I thought Heart Gold and Soul Silver were pretty cool. Like they have this dynamic poses. And then it's just like after that, like black and white are really fucking dumb. It's like, I know it's called black and white, but like, did it really have to be literally just black and white on the cover? Like,
I feel like, Paula, you're that 4-panel Star Wars meme. Like, the first panel's just you as Anakin complaining about all these different things about the Pokemon franchise, and then Padme's just like, so you're not going to buy the next one, are you? So you're not going to buy the next one, are you?
oh, I'm like in a nerd. I thought X and Y were pretty cool though. But anyway, I'm actually in that point of like being close to it, because like I've been looking at Shining Pearl and Brilliant Diamond, and I'm like, I want to play a stupid Pokemon game, but I'm also like, no, you don't, Alex, don't get it. And so I'm trying to make sure I don't. I'm never going to buy this game full price.
Even bundle in the what was it, Platinum? Like all the. They didn't even bundle in the fixtures from that. Like, what's going on there?
I know, it's weird, because like some of the, again, because then they would have had to only sell one copy and not make, $140 for the 2 copies.
Well, no, I mean, you incorporate that work into both of them if you still want to sell.
Fair, yeah. But that's the issue, is that like they did put some of the fixes from Platinum in, but then you could tell really what they didn't want to do was put all of them in to make it one experience, right? They want to make it the 2 experiences, which is really, honestly, just the worst.
They're going to sell Perfect Platinum next year. That's what they're going to do.
Oh my God, it'd kill me.
Oh my
Anyway,
god.
that was our discussion of box art. There's so many other things we could talk about, like the crazy box arts of handhelds like Game Boy Advance, the transition from Japan to North America. I mean, you could go forever on these things. Why in North America the GameCube logo is at the bottom, not the top? I mean, there's tons of stuff. You have more, Paula?
You think I didn't have more?
Okay, save it for a New Game Plus. That's
Okay.
your first one. Oh my God, you got like 5 or 6 other. Save it for a New Game Plus. That's what we're gonna do.
I'm not
Oh my
watching the
God.
stream. I'm saving myself. Tell us your most and least favorite box arts in the comments down below, or email us them to hltvpodcast@gmail.com, or come join us in the Discord or the forums and tell us there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because we're almost at 2 hours. So Paula, why don't you tell us what are we playing this week? How long to beat the game?
Oh. Wait, no, this is actually like... Oh, yeah, this is a standalone game. Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry.
Oh,
Freedom
Ever
Cry.
heard that?
I know that one. Yeah, that's a Black Flag DLC where you play as one of the teammates. It's really good, actually.
Should I re-roll it because it is DLC? Or...
No. It's a
Leave
standalone
it.
DLC.
Okay,
So like
okay,
it started as DLC, but you could play it on your own. It's very good. It's very good. I think they actually eventually released it as its own game.
Uh-oh.
I am not getting this one.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. I'm going 8 hours main, 10 hours main plus. This is the gamble. 12 hours, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna go somewhere close-ish. I know I'm not confident on doing 100%.
I'll be real. That's where I've gone wrong. That's where I've gambled.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go 5 hours Spain, 6 hours Spain plus, and 6 hours 100%.
6 hours, 100%, huh?
You said it started as a DLC and then it became its own thing.
Well, it's a DLC that they also have released, I think, kind of as a standalone. It's weird.
I'm going back to my original plan. I'm going to 555 it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 7 hours for
Creed's always so
100%.
bloated, but I feel like this one might not be. Ugh.
Yeah, I know they're
Ugh.
they're often bloated, but see, okay, what I'm a little stuck on. Okay, I'm gonna say 5 hours. I'm gonna say 6 hours, and I'm gonna go 7 hours.
Copying me.
Oh shit! Did you do that? Okay, well I'm gonna change it a little bit. I'm gonna say
Always copying other
I'm gonna say
people's
6
answers.
hours.
Oh my god.
Here, I'm gonna go 6, 7, 8. 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I'm happy with that. 6, 7, 8. Tell us what we got
Watch
there,
this
Paula.
be a PS1 game in spirit. It's like 15 hours, mate.
Oh my
Okay,
God,
main story 4.5 hours.
Okay.
Main plus extras 6 hours. Completion is 7.5 hours.
Nice.
Yeah, I would have
Nice.
fucked it. I actually would have fucked it. Okay.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I remember
So-
it's like a pretty solid game. Like I enjoyed it quite a bit. Because Black Flag for me is still, I think, my favorite of all of the Assassin's Creeds. I loved that one so much. It's just so good. Anyway, 128 for Rick and I, and 113 for Paula. Still 10 for the
Speaking
guests.
so good, we're nailing it week after week after week.
Yeah, I
Not
think
bad.
we're getting into like a rhythm with this now, you know? We've just got lucky. And we have 10/100 for the guests. I'm just giving them a lot. We'll bump them up. That's it for this week. We got some fun stuff coming up over the next few weeks here. Some Fantasy Critic stuff's coming up. A guest, perhaps. Who knows? So stay tuned as we enter into this holiday season and end out 2021. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Toodles.
Take it easy.
Bye.